Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including President Trump suggesting that Senator Mark Kelly should be tried for seditious crimes punishable by death. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Wayne Schutsky from KJZZ Radio, Cameron Sanchez, also from KJZZ, and Dennis Welch from CBS 5 and 3 TV panel. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us, Wayne. We're going to start with you, I should say. And holy smokes, President Trump coming out and seeing Mark Kelly and some other Democratic lawmakers and saying sedition.
Yeah, they signed this. They're all veterans, or I believe have served in intelligence, and they came out and essentially were telling our country's military members, if the president gives you an illegal order, you don't have to follow it. Just reminding them. And the president was not a fan of that, believed it constituted seditious activity, and as you said they should be hanged.
Well, he said it was seditious behavior at the highest level, Cameron, and traitors should be arrested and put on trial. And then he reposted, hang them. And there's I mean, as he said today in his interesting press conference with the new mayor of New York, he didn't actually say that they should be hanged, but...
Well, I actually have a Truth Social account just for events such as this so that I can check in on our president. And I went through to see what there was, and he kind of went on a very long stream of posting and reposting various things that other people had said, including one post that, of course, said hang them in all like capital letters. So if you're on the president's social media account, on his page, it says that he posted this. And yes, it's a repost. He didn't type in the letters, but he saw the post, reposted it, and let it appear on his page. So take that as you will. When we have lawmakers or other figures who repost things, we are able to include that in our coverage because, they're attached to it then. But no, he didn't verbally or physically, technically type it out.
Well, and I think when you repost it, whether you like it or not, I mean, you're seen as endorsing that idea. And when you're reposting something that says hang them, that's making a real statement. Now, we all learn different interesting things all day, every day in this job. One of the fun things I learned yesterday, I learned that sedition does not carry the death penalty. Treason, however, does carry the death penalty. But one of the attorneys I was speaking with was like, sedition has a lot to do with speech. There's that fine line of what's free speech and what is seditious speech. Seditious speech is trying to coerce people to band together and usurp the government and do things like that. But if you talk to the Democrats that were making these comments, you read their statements, they weren't urging anybody to go ahead and ignore unlawful or lawful orders. It was all about the wording in that video, reminding them you can disobey an unlawful or illegal order in this situation.
Yeah, Kelly's part of the video. He says, our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
Yeah, it all goes back to the idea, and I believe they pointed this out, is essentially that our military members are taking an oath to the Constitution. We're not taking an oath to a president. This is something the Democrats have pointed out over and over and over again. We don't have a king in this country. We have a president, and the presidents change over time. And so that's why the oath is to the Constitution, to the laws of this land, and that's essentially what they were pointing out. I mean, I think the president's response was inevitable, given what they pointed out. But again, they were just pointing out what the law states.
And I would add, too, I think context in this about this issue is important. If you look at what is happening and how Democrats are viewing this, I mean, you've got, fishing boats, in the Caribbean that are being targeted, people being killed there. You've got National Guard troops being federalized, sent to cities across America. I think this is why the Democrats, I think it was why they would tell you, this is why we put this video out now. Just as Wayne was saying, it's a reminder of what you are not obligated to follow anything that you feel is an illegal order.
We should say the president today in that press conference with the new mayor of New York did say that these folks were in, quote, serious trouble, and he would look for maybe military courts to take some action. It's the law. It's law. It's case law. You don't follow unlawful orders.
Yeah, and I don't know if deploying military response would help his point in this case, based on how we got here. Plus, all of the members in the video are former military, et cetera. So I don't know if that's something that he was saying he could do or he's actually going to do, but no, you're very correct, and Dennis is correct, and you're not obligated or even really supposed to follow unlawful orders in your job.
So is this something that is yet another day in the life of this administration, or will this hang on and have legs and move on next month, next year?
I think in someone else's political career it would have longer legs.
Well, it depends on the president as well. I mean, it could just be like a 1 or 2 news cycle thing, or very well he could instruct his Attorney General Pam Bondi to go ahead and do something. We've seen this in the past. I mean, the kind of ball's in the president's court. If he wants to move down this road and move forward on this, it's really pretty much up to them. But I think, we're discussing, I think the laws, I think the code of military conduct is all pretty clear in this situation. But we've seen this president before just, take his own road and make his own interpretations of what some laws might be.
It's also worth noting that this administration has not been shy about using its Department of Defense to strip political enemies of some of their military titles and things of that nature. How much that it would affect these individuals, since their security clearances and things may be more tied to their congressional seats, I don't know, but that's another possibility.
All right, let's move on. Cameron, it looks like the Attorney General is not going to give up on the fake electors case.
No, at least not right now. So we had a deadline, and she finally said yes, she's going to ask the state Supreme Court to take this issue up. A lower court had ruled sort of quashing the grand jury's original indictment of our 11 Republican fake electors here in Arizona because they argued that the prosecutors didn't give the information to the grand jury that they needed to on this particular act. So now she is taking it to the next level, and we'll see what the Supreme Court has to say.
Was this a surprise, Dennis, at all?
No, I don't think it's a surprise. She's put a lot of political capital on this. She's gotten a lot of attention on this. She would argue that she got a late start to all this because her predecessor wasn't really looking into this much at all. But I also think she runs a risk of this being seen as really a political blunder on her, or at least a blunder on her part, because as Cameron was saying, the reason why it was kicked back to the grand jury is her prosecutors didn't dot their I's and cross their T's on this one. And this is a very high-profile case. I mean, look at the roster of defendants on this. You got everybody from the former mayor of America and Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani. You've got a former chairwoman of the Arizona Republican Party. You had 2 sitting state lawmakers on this. It's a very high-profile case, but it's interesting. I wonder where the public is on this because, man, we're over 5 years.
I was going to ask about that. The longer this goes, the longer it goes.
Yeah, and it's like Dennis said, she's put so much capital into this, though, it's kind of hard to see her giving up now. And, I was in the courtroom for a lot of these arguments, and it's worth noting that it's not that the prosecutors didn't give the grand jury any information about this specific law that the fake electors are relying on that said gave them the ability to do what they did. It's just they didn't give them the actual text of it. They explained the legal theory, I believe. They just didn't give them the actual text. So you could see how, looking at that, the Attorney General might be like, well, if the Supreme Court looks at this, they might say we did our due diligence. We just didn't go as far as maybe the defense thinks we should have.
Yeah, and is this the kind of thing where the Attorney General, I mean, we talked earlier that she might kick it back to another grand jury. I mean, now we got to go to the Supreme Court. This is going to take a while.
It's going to take a while, and I think it's sort of a question of what does the public think of it 5 or even 6 years after, because we're talking about this in November of 2025. Presumably it's not going to be done by the end of 2025, but you never know. And for Mays in her political career, is this going to be something that's helpful for her if she continues to pursue it, even if the court says no and then other courts say no to it? I think it could be a little bit awkward.
And I think it's worth pointing out, I don't know if it's going to make a difference or not, but it could. It could be something. It could be nothing. The Supreme Court, the 7 members out there, almost all of them except I think 1 were appointed by Republican governors. So it's a conservative court. She's asking to do this. And the ball is obviously in their court, no pun intended. I wonder how this will move forward. You're talking about time. Cameron's talking about time. If this drags off into the midterm elections, I think people are going to just be looking at this going, what is going on?
Well,
here?
and let's move on with how does this impact next year's AG's race?
Well, you've already seen Republican Warren Peterson, who's one of the folks running for the nomination to take on Mays, really making a big deal about basically saying she's wasting the public money on what is what he's characterizing as a political prosecution. So it's going to be I think, hit line that whoever the Republican nominee is will use against her.
You think it's going to be a big deal then next year, either or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll try to make it a big deal, but it's just getting a little tired.
Yeah, a little tired
Yeah,
from this
I mean,
angle. But
somebody's going to try to make it. I mean, Republicans can make a really big deal out of this whole thing. And what Wayne was saying, I mean, they could run a campaign against her. It's like, look at all the millions of dollars. I don't know what the price tag is. Look at all the money she has spent in taxpayer money on this frivolous lawsuit. I could see the ads being run now. I wonder, and I think it would be incumbent in the AG would want a quick decision on this. Potentially, or maybe she wants it to drag it out in the midterms. Who knows?
But would it be it's a frivolous lawsuit, or that the Attorney General did not, as you say,
Yeah. I think
dot
that's
I's
the
and
risk.
cross T's?
I think that's the risk she runs on this. I mean, like that could be something to go after her on. It's like, look, she screwed this high-profile case up. They can make that accusation and maybe make some political hay out of all that.
All right. Wayne, we had the Epstein files. We finally had the vote. Surprise, surprise, they're coming out. What do we know? What are we seeing in there? What are we seeing regarding Arizona connections with the Epstein files?
Nothing that we didn't really know before, just maybe a little bit more in depth, connections to a former ASU professor, Lawrence Krauss, Noam Chomsky, who was down at U of A, which these connections have been known kind of since the Epstein files started bubbling up years ago, that they were friendly, that they emailed a lot. So it wasn't anything new. It just kind of confirmed what we already knew about Arizona.
Yeah, friendly, but no sex trafficking involved in conversations involved in any of these.
Well,
with ASU folks.
Exactly. Yeah, nothing that we saw in these files.
And the U of A folks.
Yeah, nothing that we saw in these files.
Not in the files, yeah. And we did a good point. We haven't seen all the files yet, have we?
Not yet. Want to talk about a story that has legs. So Arizona connections, of course, are everywhere. Our Adelita Grijalva was instrumental, of course, in the petition, and then we had the House committee turning over various files, and we have our other Republican federal lawmakers now changing tune, and we had the House voting to actually release them. So we're seeing a shift, I think, in the narrative around the Epstein files as well from the Republican side.
How did they change their tunes, the Republican contingent there?
Oh, I'll tell you real simple here, at least in Arizona, for most of the Republican delegation, they changed their tunes because Donald Trump saw where all this was going and said they can go ahead and vote for this. He urged them to vote for this. I mean, all but Andy Biggs. I think Andy Biggs was out in front a little bit on this. I think a couple of days before Donald Trump said his Republican members could go ahead and vote for this, Biggs had said that he planned to vote to release the files. The rest of Arizona's Republicans in the delegation waited, until after Donald Trump had cleared them to go ahead and then come out and forcefully say, "We've been for transparency all along." So, I mean, that's what was going on with that. It was interesting. It was fun to watch this. I don't know if you guys had the same experience I have. I was calling, I was asking our representatives, like, how do they plan to vote? I wasn't getting much of an answer on this, but surprise, surprise, after Donald Trump comes out, all of a sudden everybody's on board.
Yeah, how did each member explain themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the media event where Congressman Biggs told us that he did plan to vote to release them, and the reporter asked the question, actually had to repeat themselves because he responded yes so quickly.
Yeah.
All of us were kind of like, wait, what did you say? And he again said, for transparency, all those things, and that essentially he doesn't actually even know what the Epstein files are. No one can define it, so he wants to just let it out there and be transparent. I think some of the other members actually kind of parroted what Speaker Johnson said, which that they actually still were kind of against it, but they voted for it, and that they were worried that it might endanger, names of victims or witnesses that might be in those files.
That was, I think, the lone no vote was for that reason.
That was also, but then even some of the folks that voted for it still said we're hesitant.
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about the prior issue about whether this could be a big deal in the midterm elections. I mean, this could be a big deal in the governor's race. Because remember, two of the members of the delegation, you have David Schweikert, Andy Biggs, are running for governor. We don't know what is really in those DOJ files. And do you really want to risk, if you're Biggs, if you're Schweikert, do you really want to risk something really bad and terrible that comes out in these files, and that you were seen as voting to try to keep that from seeing daylight? I mean, I think that was a real political calculus that some of these people were running here.
Did I see where Schweikert referred to the JFK assassination files, that he was all for that too?
I'm not sure why, but yes.
Yes.
And I think Dennis brings up a good point, which is that politically this was going to be really rough, and it would have been just the greatest gift ever to their Republican primary opponents, and then presumably to Katie Hobbs in the general, which is, Biggs and Schweikert support not releasing the Epstein files. They're pro Jeffrey Epstein, essentially, and that would have been really rough. So it makes sense for Biggs to sort of step out ahead and make this statement. And some of our other delegation members have been pretty quiet. Siscomani in particular has been quiet as a mouse about this.
Yeah, yeah. Will that affect him, do you think? I mean, obviously being quiet is playing it safe, but are you playing it too safe?
It sort of depends. I mean, his vote is what he can probably lean on the most, but the fact that he hasn't been answering questions is, I think, certainly frustrating to some folks in his district going to the next election.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Dennis, we'll start with you on this one. Who is Austin Smith, and why is he no longer in the legislature and no longer with Turning Point Action?
Well, Austin Smith, yes, he worked for Turning Point. He's a former state lawmaker, and we know now that he will not be a state lawmaker for at least another 5 years. He is someone who was first accused and indicted of forging signatures, those petition signatures you need to gather to qualify for the ballot. Now, initially, I believe he said was the word ludicrous that he was being accused of this. Well, he had to admit that he did forge these signatures. So he is going to end up, he's going to be paying, I believe, a $5,000 fine. He's going to be on probation, and again, he's on a 5-year timeout period where he's not allowed to run for public office at this point. Now, what's interesting about him too is it's kind of rich with irony, because the crowd he hangs out with, man, there are some election deniers amongst that crew of politicos in Arizona. These are the people that were always talking about, rigged elections and things like that. He's kind of, if he's not part of that, he's at least very adjacent and very connected to some of those people. So for him to be caught trying to forge or fake his way onto the ballot, I think was pretty rich with some irony there.
Yeah, pretty rich with some irony there, and there are other aspects of this as well that are somewhat ironic, I would think.
Yeah, and I would say, I believe he still works for Turning Point Action.
I thought he was former.
There was a brief resignation after he left the legislature. He also resigned, and then I found some business records that they brought him back on. He's still listed on and now he's still listed on their website to this day.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, no, there's a lot of irony about this. But as Dennis mentioned, the Turning Point crew has never met a fight they didn't like. And the fact that after calling this ludicrous, they really didn't say much about these charges as it was working its way, through the Attorney General's office and all that, kind of put some writing on the wall that there might be some truth to this. I always thought, they weren't really fighting much. They knew something was up.
Well, the other ironic part in all of this is, like, Turning Point USA is really good at this kinds of stuff, getting people on the ballots and helping out with campaigns. Say what you want about TPUSA. They are very effective and very good at this. Like, how come they couldn't just, get him the signatures, man?
Well, but he got the signatures. Unfortunately, the signature. I mean, goodness gracious, Cameron, they all looked the same. I mean, there wasn't a lot of effort there.
I don't pretend to be a handwriting expert, but yeah, I remember opening up the filings on my computer however many months ago this was and being like, whoa. And since then, yeah, I was not surprised that they took a plea, and I wasn't surprised that the case pursued and Smith kind of kept his head down about it. It would have been hard, I think, to defend, and this plea deal is more generous than certainly it could have been.
The plea deal contingent, of course, on the judge not having any other ideas as far as what should go on here.
Another wild thing about all of this is these legislative races, you don't have to gather that many signatures, and he's also in a safe Republican district, lots of Republican doors to knock to go get. So it's just a lot of questions about why they couldn't just get the signatures in the first place.
Yeah. Sticking with you, Wayne, you wrote about this regarding Justin Heap and the recent elections here in Maricopa County and the rejection rate for ballots, mail-in ballots, I guess they're all mail-in, regarding signatures. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so this was the most recent November 4th election, as you mentioned, all mail-in, because these off-year jurisdictional, school races and bonds and all that kind of stuff, they just do it all by mail to save some money. And yeah, the recorder is charged with running the process to look at all those signatures, making sure they match the file to verify that you are who you say you are and you're voting your ballot. Well, the rate at which he rejected them came out to about 0.8%. It was about 5,000 plus ballots, and that is well above where it's been in any previous election in modern history. Usually we're seeing a rate around anywhere from 0.1 to 0.3%. So he blames it on the fact that it was a special mail-in election and that a lot of people who would normally vote in person were forced to vote by mail. They don't have a lot of signatures on file, so they didn't have a lot of things to compare them to. That might boost up the numbers, but that didn't really hold up under scrutiny because, again, the last time we had an election like this, the rate was much lower.
And there's also new technology he's using, is there not? I mean, new ways, bipartisan double-checking and all this sort of business?
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is how you interpret the number, because you could use this as an argument, as he may be trying to do, or some of his allies, against mail-in voting and all-mail elections, which, as we know, a lot of Republicans don't like the concept of these days. And you could also say, well, this means we're being more secure than ever. Our elections are safer than ever, so this is actually a really good thing, because maybe we're weeding out more fraud than ever before. But you could also see it as a negative and be like, well, maybe people are being disenfranchised. You know, if fewer people's votes are being counted, that could be a problem. What if my vote doesn't get counted? I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm curious to see the spin as that plays forward, and in the next election, if that rate is still high, but more people are turning out, obviously, for the midterms and the jurisdictional elections, are people going to be really upset?
I just want to follow up on that. I think that's a key point there, is how you can spin this. I think if you're somebody out there who's very skeptical of the elections and how we run those elections, I think very much to Cameron's point, you could look at this and say, Justin he's our guy. He's catching this stuff. This is good. This is why we elected him. On the other hand, if you're not skeptical of that, if you trust in the integrity of the election system, I've talked to a lot of political types who are saying, man, this could be a prelude to a real big mess in the midterm elections a little less than a year from now.
And we should mention that basically is the two arguments that we're seeing. Those are the arguments. Thomas Galvin, the chair of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, he kind of, as you reported, he says he thinks Heap's just looking for reasons to reject. Meanwhile, Heap is saying it's a home run for his staff.
Yeah, Heap ran on this. Like, he was one of those folks who kind of towed the line in the election denial movement, but was endorsed by a lot of people, including Carrie Lake, who straight up filed lawsuits saying that the recorder was not signature verifying properly. So he kind of had a campaign promise to keep. So that's where Galvin was going, is that you're just trying to find some way to do that. But Heap, again, is saying, no, we're just making sure that this is accurate. We're improving the process. He stopped short of saying former recorder Stephen Richards' office was allowing invalid ballots to be counted. He wouldn't answer that question when he was asked. But I posed the question to Richard, like, what's your response to all this? And he's like, he basically said he thought it was laughable that you're trying to posit that 5,000 people are committing voter fraud to vote in a school bond election.
Well, it's just more grist for the mill, and it'll be more tension between Heap and the county board. Already they've got lawsuits flying around as they're battling for power over who ultimately controls the election. I believe the board has control over election day stuff, and the recorder right now is basically in charge of mailing out the ballots and doing stuff like that. Heap is not happy with limited power. He wants more power. And this will just add more tension for that relationship between the recorder's office and the county board, I think.
Yeah, we should mention the supervisor, Debbie Lesko, thought that this was actually a good thing.
Yeah, well, even some of the supervisors who were concerned about the rate, like Kate Brophy-McGee as well, like, she was concerned that the rate was so high. They still seem to like some of the changes he made. They're like, we don't see a problem with a bipartisan board looking at these things. We don't see problems with you making it easier to look at all the signatures for comparison. We just want answers as to why those two things, which seem relatively simple, caused the rate to skyrocket so high.
Cameron, you want to talk about the Supreme Court considering these public record cases?
No, thank you.
No, thank you?
Yeah, I will. I will. I just wanted to say it once. I'm sorry. So we've got a couple of important public records cases before the court, and one of them, I believe, is involving the U of A. One of them is involving the police union. These cases are both of interest, I think, to the Goldwater Institute, which is a think tank which often has its hands in these topics. Basically, things were requested and not received by the requesters. This, I feel like, comes up a lot, and journalists are always interested in it because it kind of affects us, because we have this experience a lot as well. And when public institutions choose, for whatever reason, to not provide public records, it raises questions, especially when they're saying, well, we don't want to provide them because we don't think it's in our best interest. It's like, well, and who cares? It's
Right.
not about what's in your best interest. It's about what's in the public's best interest.
And we should mention, though, the Supreme Court's taking this on because the Superior Court, appellate courts, they all sided with the city of Phoenix and with the University of Arizona to keep these things quiet.
Well, I would say this, though, too. I mean, when you start looking at public records laws, I think Arizona has some of the best and most friendliest public record laws. It's a very short statute. It's pretty clear what's a public record out there. And if you are going to be withholding public documents, you've got to have some better reasons than, well, it's not in our interest to put them out there.
But I will say, despite being very permissive compared to other states, there are caveats and there are carve-outs, and some of them do have to do with the interest of the government. Usually it has to do with, whether it's proprietary type of information with running elections or things of that nature. But I think Phoenix was making the argument that it would hurt them in negotiations with the various unions that represent all the different employee groups, and you can make an argument about how that benefits taxpayers and all that. So
Right.
That's, as Cameron said, these always end up at the Supreme Court because there are very permissive, there are words in there that are up to interpretation, and ultimately it's the Supreme Court justices who have to come down with the final interpretation.
And the U of A's argument is interesting as well, because they said that as part of destroying tapes, which was part of their deal, is part of the normal process of cleaning out files, and that if you had what this professor wanted, it would be, quote, unworkable.
I've heard that one before,
Yeah.
a lot. The unworkable thing, and we have the right to destroy records as we please kind of a thing. In fact, with the legislature, they created rules for themselves that makes it very convenient for them to destroy records very quickly. So if you don't request it in time, you snooze, you lose. So there's precedent for that, but it's still very much of interest how it plays out. If the courts continue to be sympathetic to the agencies who are refusing to fulfill public records requests, that could set further precedent for all of us.
All right, we're going to stop it right there. Panel, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
When you want to be more inspired, Arizona PBS delivers unforgettable experiences in music, theater, and the arts, thanks to members like you. And
Primavera Online School now offers kindergarten through 5th grade with a project-based curriculum, digital learning activities, and small group instruction. To learn more, visit chooseprimavera.com.
Next time on The American Revolution, the shock of treason.
He was the last person Washington ever thought would have betrayed him.
The South explodes in battles.
It's sometimes brother against brother. It's an ugly conflict.
And a new nation rises.
With what soldiers in the world could one do what was done by these men?
Don't miss the conclusion of The American Revolution.
tonight at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Hello, I'm Paula Kerger, president of PBS. I'd like to tell you about a